women on stage because they know how hard it is to be in those shoes. And it was, yeah, surreal.
Yeah. Well, and I think we all got a glimpse of the sisterhood that you sort of join when you compete in the Miss Universe organization. And that was thrilling to see. So that was really exciting. One of the questions we got, and it's something I would love to hear too, is the story behind selecting your pink gown at Miss USA 2015, because it was iconic. It was completely memorable. It's one of those dresses that you're like, that dress was so cool.
Before I won Miss USA, I had modeled in New York Fashion Week for Sherry Hill. So she was like, at that point, my Oklahoma homegirl. I just looked up to her so much, and I felt like just the Oklahoma connection. I was like, Sherry, whatever you want, like, guide me. I am your I am your Barbie doll, dress me up. But so I knew I wanted to wear Sherry Hill without a doubt. And when I went to her showroom, I tried on a bunch of things, and I kept sort of like pulling this thing off the rack, and I was like, is this weird that I'm gravitating towards this? And when I put it on, everyone in the room was like, yeah, you're gonna wear that. That's the one.
Yeah, and it was perfection. And I don't think like everybody can pull that off, but you certainly did. It made you look incredible. Like, your figure looked great. And like, I feel like I usually have to stay away from ball gowns because they make me look so short, but like, you looked incredible. Your proportions were perfect. Like, you lit up the stage. And so I loved watching that. Like, I feel like a pageant fan right now.
Oh my God, I love it.
It's so cool. It really was. It really genuinely was.
Oh my gosh.
So another one of the questions that we got was sharing something. This question is actually from Nia Sanchez. She says, can you share something that most people might not know about being Miss USA?
I think one of the hard things about being Miss USA is it can be really lonely. And it's not like a fun fact, but it is the reality. It's like you're in this position that pretty much only like the 60 plus women that have come before you have been in those similar shoes. And there are some days that are really hard. There's some days you're exhausted, and it's not, you're in this place of gratitude and like wanting to do the most you possibly can with your year that you never want to complain. But that can be kind of isolating. Like, to your friends and family, you want to be like, yeah, everything's great. And in some ways it is, but also in some ways you're like, and I'm exhausted and I'm burnt out and I haven't controlled my schedule in a year. I'm like on someone else's timeline. So though balancing that is a challenge for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. And one of the things I realized after winning and like serving as Miss USA for a while is like, people forget that like you're a real person. Like, there are people who will comment on my social media. Like, there are some, just trolls. There are other people who are super positive and so encouraging. And I think there are some people who like will leave comments as if I'm not reading them. Like, they'll leave comments on my personal page and be like, wow, she looks really pretty in this dress. And I'm like, why wouldn't you say like, you're really pretty? And it sort of reminds you like, they really don't think that I'm a real person.
Yes. Yeah. And that can be challenging for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But like you said, there's so much, I think all of us have so much gratitude and are just very grateful and happy to be here. But, there's another side to it that you also don't see.
Right. Yeah. And I think because everyone sees the highlight reel, then we can forget to talk about the other piece. So that's why I bring it up.
Yep. I totally agree. Couldn't agree more. Okay. So there was another question that said, what are some of the positive highlights from your reign? And it's always like, people always ask me like, so what's the coolest thing you've ever done? I'm like, I can't tell you just one. There's so many things. So any number of things, like your top 3, your top 2, your top 1, what are like the highlights?
Okay. My top 3 was just the after I won the crown, getting off that plane, and just when I was in New York, after I finished my whole first day, I just walked the city. I just walked for hours, and in retrospect, probably not the safest thing, but I just walked like hours, and I was like, I live here. I live in New York. It just was like this childhood dream coming true. So surreal. Number 2 was meeting Oprah. I fangirled out. I was not cool. I was not normal. I didn't know how to speak. I didn't know what to do with my hands or my body.
When did you meet her? Tell me about this.
I got to go to a premiere of, it was like early on in the Oprah Winfrey Network, and she was leading the premiere of Believe, I believe is the name of the show. And I just was excited to be in the audience and hear her speak. But then afterwards, there was this little cocktail hour for the 100 people, and she was in the room, and it was like the wind got like sucked out of the room when she walked in. Like we all were like
the Oprah effect. Yeah.
I died. And then third top moment was going to the Philippines, because they are truly the greatest pageant fans in the world, and like living with Pia and getting to go just see her in her element and be privy to that. Like it was phenomenal. It was pageants on steroids. It was amazing.
When did you go? What were you in the Philippines for?
I got to judge Miss Philippines.
Oh, that's so cool.
Beanie Beanie.
Oh yeah, that would have been amazing.
It was wild.
Yeah, that is awesome. Well, it's so funny. It's so funny that you say that meeting Oprah was one of like your top three. I always put that in my top three. Like, and you're right. It's like the Oprah effect. Like when she walks in, I remember I was interviewing her when she was on another tour for Extra. And I remember like we're sitting in this auditorium, this giant arena, waiting for her to come in, and we're asking like one of the PR people, like, do you know when she's going to be here? And they're like, 10, 15 minutes, but you'll know. I was like, what does that mean? Like, I'm asking people, like, what does that mean? We'll know. And all of a sudden, like 15 minutes or so later, like, I'm looking at one of my producers, and I was like, what's that? What's going on? And you just, there's this feeling. And so I look over and I'm like, Oprah's here. It's real. One of those things. Yeah, it's craziness, but it's really, really cool. It's really cool that she has that effect on people.
Oh my gosh, it's so inspiring.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Okay, so somebody asked, this is a really great question. How did you use Miss USA as a networking opportunity for your own career?
Ooh, I think for me, just at that time, Instagram was kind of like a brand new world. It had only been around for a few years. So I really capitalized on that and grew my Instagram to, at that time, what I thought was large. And
it's still large now.
and helped grow the Miss USA. I was in the world where we used to control all the content on the Miss USA page as well. So that was like kind of a big job for me at that time. And I think that was a huge part of my networking, that I didn't realize opportunities in social media until that year. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been an actor and a model for years, but I can have my portfolio and my reel and my personality slate just basically all in one place.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. And I feel like it certainly must have helped you. I mean, obviously you've got a huge following now, helped you to learn and figure out things on your own, and then sort of use that for your own success afterwards.
Yeah, totally. So grateful.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm going through. Oh, this is a really good question. Somebody asked this. All right, so Miss Alabama Earth says, how do you handle any anxiety or nervousness during the competition? That's a good question.
I personally meditate before going on stage. So that's my main thing, to try to just like get my breathing under control. I do grounding exercises where I feel my feet on the floor. Most of the time they're in my shoes because like gross backstage, but just the practice of feeling that connection to earth, even if you're in your shoes, is really grounding for me and helps sort of calm that nerve. What do you do?
Cool. So I always feel like nervous jitters or like little butterflies. So I end up having to just move around a lot, whether that's like I'll be like singing a song in my head and like, like I remember when we were backstage at Miss Universe, I think they were playing Beyonce backstage. And so we were like, yes, Beyonce. And so I've learned that like just moving around and trying to get my mind off of what's about to happen, like helps me to just get those nervous jitters out so I can walk on stage and not feel it. So it's really cool. Really fun.
For sure.
Speaking of Miss Universe, a lot of people had a ton of questions about both of our experiences competing at Miss Universe, because obviously it's one of those huge things that you get to do as Miss USA. One person asked, what was the funniest experience that you had at Miss Universe?
I don't know if this is funny. I mean, this is a long time ago for me. I don't remember. But there was one moment that I don't know if people know, but at Miss Universe, all the girls, you're with your roommate in your hotel room, but then at the end of the hall, there's always like a hotel suite where everyone can go and hang out, and there's like tea in there and sometimes treats and whatever. So we would all like go and have downtime there. It was the only time during that 2-week process that no one's taking pictures. No one's like, you're just totally relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were in there, one of the girls was like, how old are you? And I was like 27. And she was like, I just can't imagine being 27 and still wanting to be a pageant queen. She was like, don't you want like kids and to get married? God, I hope that I'm like married with kids by your age. And I was just like, my like mind was like, wait. And then I was like, no, sweet, beautiful girl. Like, you have so much life ahead of you. You can be a pageant queen. You can have a million other career aspirations. You do not have to hurry. There is plenty of time for the wedding, the babies, all the things. No rush.
Yeah.
So that's sort of funny.
That is so funny. Well, because you said you were 27 at that time, right?
I think so. Yeah, 27.
Okay, so I remember when I was 27, I was still a state title holder. I was Miss North Carolina, USA, and I went and spoke at my my high school that I graduated from. And I remember talking to this group of kids, and they were asking me a bunch of questions. Somebody was like, "How old are you?" And I was like, 27. And they're like, "Wow!" Like as if they've never met a 27-year-old before. So, fun fact, guys, and Olivia, correct me if I'm wrong here. Okay, so I think before I won, you were the oldest Miss USA to have won the title, and then Nana Merriweather was the oldest person to hold the title.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you guys are talking to like the 2 oldest people to win the title of Miss USA.
Oh my God.
There's so much ageism, but I think that you're right that, like, you know, just because you're 27 or 28 or 30 or 40 doesn't mean that you can't go and chase your dreams and do what you actually want to do. Like, your age shouldn't stop you. And I think like reaching the age of 20, I'm 29 now. Reaching that age and reflecting back on who I was at 21, like I don't think that I wouldn't have known anything at 21. I was so immature at 21.
I'm so glad I won when I did, because like if I would have won my first pageant when I was like 22 or 23, however old, I forget, but I wouldn't have done what I did with my year. I wouldn't have appreciated it as much. So I think there's a lot of good that comes with the age.
Yeah, for sure. And that doesn't mean you can't win if you're younger too. It's just like
no.
When I was that young, and I was like, I didn't have any idea what I was doing. I saw a meme a while ago. It said, "How are people having children at my age? I am children." Like,
yes.
There's some days where I'm still waking. I still call my mom. Yeah, like, "Mom, I have no idea what to do with this decision. Please help me." So that actually is really, really funny. Okay, so somebody asked, what was the biggest struggle each of you faced competing at Miss Universe?
What was yours?
I would say that I think some of the pressure that you get from fans sometimes can be a little overwhelming. And I think it's something that I've been pretty good at controlling. But I got a message yesterday that actually reminded me of it. And I was like debating about whether or not to share it. But I'm like, why not? We're on live. It'll be fine. Like overwhelmingly, people just want to help you. And I think people just want to share their opinions because they want to, you know, be an aid or guide you or whatever. And then there are other people who are just like negative trolls all the time. And so I think at Miss Universe and Miss USA is when things like sort of ramp up a little bit. And it's just exhausting sometimes to constantly get messages from people, especially if they're negative messages. So I got this message yesterday from somebody who responded to like the little question answer thing that I posted. I'm reading this off literally. How much did you pay to win the competition because you were the ugliest there? And guys, I have to say that like the number of like negative messages that you get during competitions or even after competitions like doesn't stop. Like I remember when I won, there were people who would put throw up faces under my pictures. There were people who send me messages and ask me like, why don't you jump off the building or kill yourself? I'm like, guys, like we really have to stop this. So I say that to say 2 things. Number one, I hope if you're receiving those kinds of messages, know that a lot of us do. And that doesn't make them any better, but you have to remember that some of those people are really just hurt or negative people who want to hurt other people. Like misery loves company, and hurt people hurt people. So don't take those messages to heart. It can be easy sometimes to feel overwhelmed by them, but try not to take those messages to heart. And two, just know that if you are getting those messages, just look at the positives and look at the people who are excited about you and people who are being encouraging, and let that just help to motivate you. So I would say that was one of the things where I was like, guys, like, chill out, calm down.
And I don't know if this is encouraging at all, but the stuff that I received in my inbox, like, would make you nauseous during my Miss USA and Miss Universe life, and or competing. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I passed the crown, girl, they fell off. Like, people stopped hating, and it was the most clear indication that, like, people really do. It really hurts people that are scared to go after their own dreams or in their own pain about themselves, to see someone else have that courage and go after their dreams and have those things. So it's just like the irony of, like, if you're getting bullied, it's probably because you're doing something right. It's probably because you're doing something great.
Yep.
And so to sort of try to keep that perspective, which is so hard to do in the moment, and I was not great at it during my year. Like, it's really hard to go down.
Yeah, it's really hard to, especially when you feel so overwhelmed about that. It's hard to, like, look past, that one negative message to the 50 that you got. But it's just like, yo, what did I do to you? Did I, like, step on your puppy's, like, foot or something? Like, who would deserve, getting messages like that? Nobody does. So guys, I hope you guys are hearing us and know that, like, Miss USAs get it all the time. People get it all the time. And it's unfortunate. I hope that if you see, like, any of your friends or family members, sending negative comments or messages, you'll speak to them and be like, look, let's talk about this, because this is no bueno.
Let's keep this positive. There's no point. And also, to that end, like, don't follow people that trigger you. Don't. You make everyone you follow, make it a beautiful page that excites you. Definitely follow people with different thoughts and opinions and that look differently than you and that study different things than you and have different religions. Like, that is great, because it's great to expand our consciousness. But don't follow people that make you feel bad about yourself in any way. Like, even I have to unfollow some of my girlfriends that are models, because I'm like, girl, when I see you in real life, I remember that you're a real person. But when I see your abs every day, I can't handle it. It makes me feel bad. So I don't follow you. But I love you. I love the person that you are. And, like, when I want to see what you're doing, I'm going to go to your page and like your recent photos. But I have to be in a good mental space. And I don't need to just be scrolling and triggered by something that is going to make me feel not good enough, which we all struggle with at times. I think most people do. So if you are one of those people that you find yourself being a hater, like, that's okay that you have those feelings, but use good boundaries. You don't actually have to share them. Unfollow.
Yeah. Exactly. I totally agree. And there's some people that I haven't followed because, like, there's certain, like, I don't know. I think for me, like, I've had my entire life such an athletic body. But for a long time, I thought, like, if you want to compete at Miss USA, you have to be tall and you have to be slender and you have to, wear your hair a certain way and you have to do certain things. And so there are certain people that, like, I think if I see too much of them start to convince me of that, like, oh my God, I need to be skinnier. What am I doing with my life? Why do I look so athletic? And so it's like, no, I totally agree that just, like, be positive, keep positive things around you. Be okay.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so there are tons of people who ask not just about Miss Universe and Miss USA, but also general questions about competing and our experiences. And so this one person says, hey, I am a huge fan of Olivia Jordan. Please tell me about your transformation in life over the years, especially during your Miss Universe days.
Oh, gosh. My transformation in life, y'all.
Tell us your life story, Olivia.
I'm like a lifelong learner. I love expanding my views, my ideas. I have always loved, like, self-help books and meditation and therapy. In my adult life, I, like, discovered therapy and was like, dang, I have so much to learn about myself and I have so much to unpack and forgive myself for. And just, so I think that's, I guess, the biggest part of my transformation is I'm always working on unpacking who I really am and trying to be the realist version of myself. And I think during Miss Universe, like you were saying, Cheslie, I really struggled with the haters. I really struggled with people commenting on my body. I gained weight as Miss USA because I wasn't able to work out like I had training for Miss USA because I was really busy being Miss USA.
You were
really
everywhere,
busy,
all over the country.
With that whole job thing.
Yeah.
So I really struggled with feedback, and I really struggled with my own insecurities about myself. So I was just trying to survive Miss Universe, honestly. I like, a lot of people say they made like the best friendships of their life. They had the best experiences of their life. I was not in a good place mentally before I went. I literally was like to Emily, who was our manager at the time, I was like, can I be on the last flight out? I am so scared. I was so nervous. Yeah, so it was a whole thing, but then you hear the crowd and you look at the sash across your chest and you're like, I belong here. The other women are uplifting. They are like encouraging and incredible and motivating. And by the time I walked across stage at finals, I was like, I am supposed to be here. This is my destiny, and I do get to represent this country. So I guess that's my transformation, is a lifelong journey of trying to figure out how to love myself and trying to figure out how to forgive myself and be the meest version of me that I can be.
Oh, I love that. Well, and thank you so much for just being candid, because I know there are a lot of people who are listening who really want to hear that, especially that it's so important, to be in a healthy mental space. And I love that you talked about, having a therapist and talking to people, because I think there are so many people who are afraid to say that, like how important it is. Like, I have a therapist that I talk to, and it's so important to be able to like talk out your thoughts and figure out a strategy and make sure that you're handling your emotions in a positive way. So people so need to hear that.
I actually think one of the struggles, like partly why I was in such a dark place, when I was Miss USA, I was like, my dreams have come true. My life is good. I'm not going to call my therapist. And I didn't, because I was like, everything's great. Everything's great. Everything's sunshine and roses. But y'all, when you're at the top of the pyramid, when you've reached the top of the mountain, you still need support. You still need to be reaching out to your people, whether that's a therapist, which obviously we both aren't fans of, or those friends that you can have those real authentic conversations and just absolutely have no judgment zone. And I wasn't doing that. I wasn't doing any of that during my year, because I just felt like everything's great and I have to be great and life is wonderful and I made my dreams come true. And if it's not great now, then it's never going to be great. So let go of that.
Yeah. Well, and you almost feel guilty too. Like if there are points that are tough during your reign, you feel guilty about being sad, because it's like, but you're Miss USA. Why aren't you happy every day? And well, it's like, well, I didn't get to go home and hug my mom for my birthday. I'm sad. So there, I think people, I hope that people know that. Like when I won, I remember, so guys, we have a stylist for the Miss Universe organization, and the stylist helps to dress us for different events. And so I remember when I won and flew into New York, I think it was like the next day or a couple of days after that, I met with the stylist for the first time to pick out clothing for my media tour. And I remember I had like a meltdown in the dressing room at the Miss Universe offices, because like she brought a bunch of dresses, and I think I just really wanted to wear pants. I was like, I have to wear pants. So she's got all these beautiful options, and I was just like, what will people think of me if I wear this? Like, I don't know if I can wear this dress right now. Is it stylish enough? And like, you get in your head so much, especially after hearing all that negative talk from people or positive talk from people that's leading you in a different direction. And it can be very, very confusing and overwhelming. So there, if you feel that, like, it is okay to like be overwhelmed, just make sure that you do something about it. Like, talk to somebody, talk about your emotions, and make sure you're handling it positively.
Yes, for sure. Preach.
Yeah. Cause it was, whew, I remember feeling so bad, because I was like, I can't wear this. What do you mean? And like looking back, I was like, half these outfits are beautiful. I don't know why I couldn't do that.
I know. I had so many of those moments. It's crazy.
Okay, we got another question in our chat, and I really, really like this question. This one's from Peach Blossom 91. She says, for those of us that are struggling to get in shape, do you have any tips to stay motivated? Love you. Love your positivity, Peach Blossom.
Yes. Wait, I need you to answer this question, Miss Queen of the Abs.
Olivia, I remember
me.
watching your abs at Miss Universe and Miss USA, so I'm pretty sure we're in the same boat.
What is your inspo though? How did you, I mean, you are truly the busiest Miss USA ever. How did you continue to train like that? How do you do it?
Oh my God, it's crazy. Well, I think, you know, I was tweeting about this the other day. I was like, how do you stay in shape when you don't have a swimsuit competition ahead of you? Because I think that is the easiest motivation. It's like, I have to be on stage in front of millions of people in a swimsuit. Like, I better go to the gym today. So that was a great piece of motivation. But I think since then, now that I don't have another swimsuit competition to compete in, what's motivated me the most, sorry about the sirens, by the way, guys. It's just, we're in New York and it's loud here.
I remember that apartment well. It lured me to sleep at night.
Exactly. It's like a lullaby at night, and it's like your alarm clock in the morning is like police sirens. But I think what motivates me now that I don't have swimsuit competition, is just my own personal feelings of like needing to be healthy and needing to be fit. And I say that like there are a few days, or a few months rather, especially after Miss Universe, that I like let my diet go. I wasn't working out. I was like, I don't care. I'm trying to enjoy my life. Why would I go to the gym? And I started realizing that it was so hard to get up in the morning. I was so tired all the time. And like I couldn't last during events. Like I would get really crabby, and I just, you know, my mood or my attitude wasn't always positive. Like I would get distracted and foggy. And I started realizing that a lot of that had to do with me not going to the gym, because my mind is just always sharper when I'm going to the gym regularly, not drinking enough water, and not giving my body the nutrients that it needed. So really that is my motivation now. It's like, I just want to feel good. And I know that like, you know, getting the right, you know, food that I need to be eating, making sure that I drink lots of water every day, and going to the gym and exercising regularly, even if it's just like a 30-minute walk, is really what helps me. What do you think?
Yeah, everything you're saying is so on point. As soon as I stopped swimsuit modeling, I was like, what's the point? But so I think I'm in this new phase of life where I'm really focused on wanting to feel healthy. Wanting to sleep well at night is major for me. If I don't do anything active, which, you know, I've done a few days of like the 9 weeks that I've been at home during quarantine, but I can't sleep at night if I don't get out and walk, or which I know is harder in New York, or do an at-home workout or yoga or something. Dang, it is hard to sleep. So I work out so I can sleep better, and that is my motivation.
Which is excellent, because like you're totally right. I completely agree. I'm usually an excellent sleeper. Like I sleep a full 8 hours, nothing wakes me up. But like the times that I'm not eating right or I'm not working out well, like it's just very bad.
That's totally, those like, if I eat the tray of brownies before bed, I'm like, and then you can't sleep because your stomach's like turning. I'm like, why? Just have the one brownie. You can have another one tomorrow. You can even have two. Just don't eat the whole tray.
Yeah, it's so hard not to. Like yesterday, I was trying to eat cake batter for dinner, and I was like, this is a bad idea. Your stomach's gonna hurt tomorrow. Okay, so you mentioned something that I know a lot of people are interested to hear about. I'm certainly interested to hear about. You talked about swimsuit modeling, and you were in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit search recently. How was that? What was it like? I mean, because I remember just watching you after you know, finished your reign as Miss USA, and I was like, oh my God, there's Olivia Jordan. She's back on the news, and it was so cool to watch.
Oh, thank you. It was awesome. That it's really odd. I'm writing a book right now, and so I'm looking back on all of these journals and stuff of years ago, and I'm like looking at this journal from 10 years ago where I'm writing that I really want to be Miss USA and be in the pages of Sports Illustrated swimsuit, and like all of these things that I'm like, I did that. That is crazy. That's
crazy. Tearing up.
It's just wild. And I like just putting your mind to something and manifesting it and being so crystal clear on goals, I think is life-changing. I mean, what they say in The Secret and what I learned from The Alchemist is the most real thing of anything. I don't know what to say. Manifesting is a real thing. You can, if you want something, manifest it, feel it truly and deeply, write it down, and work towards it. I don't know, it could happen.
Yeah, well, it was so cool to watch. I mean, when you were, because I know you guys did a lot of media, like what did it feel like going into the media, talking about it? Did you often talk about your experience as Miss USA, or did you talk about, you know, modeling beforehand and afterwards? Like, what was that like?
It was, yeah, it was such a great group of girls that I was with. Incredible women have been in the pages of Sports Illustrated through the years. And so that was sort of surreal. We were hanging out with Christy Brinkley, and I was like, this is crazy. Like, I
Unreal.
looked up to you my whole life, and it was surreal.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the interviews, people definitely had a lot of pageant related questions. I try not to, like, people have misguided views of what it means to be a pageant queen. Mm-hmm. So I just try to always be as real as possible, because I think there's this view that pageant queens are fake or totally edited down into like this perfection. It's just not real. So at any time that I was sort of getting pushed in that direction, I just was like, y'all, no, trust me. I'm a real human being, that this is another huge goal of mine. Yeah. So I would try not to go too much, but it's impossible not to be like, well, these were two of my largest goals, career goals, for my life, and I have so far achieved both of them, and there's still some more on that list that I'm working towards. But yeah, it was a very cool experience, and it came, like, I think a couple years after Miss USA, so it was like cool timing. It was like, oh, okay, that chapter closed. Okay, this new chapter. Okay, that chapter closed. Now what's next?
Exactly. Well, and that brings me to another one of my questions, or one of the questions that people sent in. Somebody asked, what are your lifelong dreams? Like, ultimately, what is your goal to achieve?
I want to feel happy and free and at peace. I think that's the dream. And so it's just creating a life that I can have the kind of, you know, financial stability and relationship stability to have all of those feelings be at my core. I'm so lucky to be married to my life partner that I feel like we really push each other to grow. I feel like we push each other to be better people and to really go after big career goals. We're both actors, and that can be a recipe for disaster. But for us, we push each other and we help each other and encourage each other, and we can read scripts together and practice lines together. So I'm so lucky, and I would love career-wise to be on a show full time. That would be the dream, to tell people stories and get people to feel something, because I think that's what I have gravitated towards my whole life. I love feeling. I love like feeling alive. I enjoy crying. I enjoy laughter, and I got a lot of that from film and television. So I want to, like, carry it on, pass it forward.
I love it. Well, and you're right. You're in the right city for it, in LA. You know, right there beside Hollywood. Okay,
What's next? Wait, what's next for you? Oh, you're doing a good question.
Oh, sorry. I'll answer that question before I answer this. What's next for me? So in the immediate future, I hope to continue working with Extra, because I love doing the work with them. I love what you said about, you know, storytelling. I love hearing people's stories, and I think, you know, what's funny is, like, when I was competing in my state pageant, Miss North Carolina USA, there was a question that said, describe yourself in one word, and I put nosy, because literally I am. Like, all I want to do is, like, know about behind the scenes stuff. Like, this session right now is just feeding my soul to hear about, like, behind the scenes stuff from, like, your experience as Miss USA. And so I think being an Extra correspondent, that's all I ask people about, like, what are their lives like, and, you know, what ripping the sort of facade off of the front and sort of seeing what's inside is really, really cool to me. So hopefully
I love that.
Yeah. Okay, so I love this question, because I didn't even think about this, that, like, Pia is from the Philippines. She was Miss Universe while you were Miss USA, and Catriona is also from the Philippines, who was my my first Miss Universe before you got Zosie. And so somebody said, did Pia and Catriona make you Filipino food?
I will say we didn't cook ever in our apartment. Ever. There, it never happened. It was a goal and an aspiration at times, but nah, we didn't cook. Did you cook?
That's the thing. Like I would cook breakfast for myself. And that was only because like when I was trying to diet, and that's only like when you know, when you're here, when you're not on the road. But you know, when I thought about breakfast, like you can't have cereal because like too many calories and, you know, sugar and stuff. Like can't have, you know, waffles or whatever because the syrup and everything. So I'm like, what can I make? Well, so all I ate every day was like egg whites and spinach, and it just made me sad. So that's really all that I would make. But there were a few times when Kat would come back from the Philippines and she would bring stuff. And so there was once that she brought chocolate covered mangoes, which was amazing.
I had those in the Philippines and they were amazing.
I'm so jealous. And I think she brought back like a couple different kinds of them. And I was like, is this like a thing? Because I am obsessed.
Yeah.
It was really, really cool. So that was so probably fun. Yeah, that was one of the things I thought was really cool. Okay, so a couple of people have asked the same question, so I want to make sure that we get to it. Somebody says, how to manage and not compare yourself to other girls in pageants with regard to physical beauty, skills, and other traits. What do you think?
I think, I think it goes back sort of to like my, like, don't follow people on Instagram. Like, it's not a comparison thing. You have to focus on yourself. I don't know. Like I don't, this isn't very solid advice because I'm just like, just don't do it. But it's not helpful. It's not going to serve you. It doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. You can 1,000,000% be wearing the same color as someone in your finals gown or the same bathing suit, or it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. There have been times that I've seen the top 5 like all in gold. I don't know if that's real, but you know what I mean? Like there are so many times that I feel like don't worry about it. Don't worry about what she's doing. Focus on you. Enjoy your experience. And I promise you will have so much more fun and be so much less stressed out because you cannot control her. She's going to be great and she's going to kill it because she won her country or she won her state or whatever it is. Like trust me, she's worried about her and that's going to serve her. So you worry about you because that's what's going to serve you.
Exactly. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about. I think people sometimes, or at least I started to think that like you would get to a certain point in time in life and like now you're fully confident all the time. You never compare yourself to anyone and you're just happy every day. And that's just not true. That's like,
when do we get there?
Yeah, right. I'm like, when do I stop caring about people's opinions? Is that like a thing? So I hope you guys know that, like, at least for me, and I let me know if you agree, Olivia, like it's something you constantly have to do. Is like, okay, I'm looking at her and she's beautiful. She's amazing. She has great hair, great skin, great teeth, and she is great all on her own. And that's fine, but I'm different. I look different. I sound different. And we're both great people in our own spaces. And I don't think that ever comes like naturally. I think there really are some times where you literally have to just like shut off your brain for a second and say like, okay, stop with the comparison and just know that everybody's unique and different. And that's a good thing.
Yes. And thank goodness that we all are there to be ourselves and that everyone's not carbon copies of what we're like trying to put ourselves in this weird box. Don't put yourself in a box.
Exactly.
Break through the box and everyone's going to do great.
Exactly. Because I you know, if we think about Kat, for example, and her lava walk, we never would have gotten the lava walk if Kat was looking at all the other Miss Universe and was like, okay, I have to walk exactly like them. You know, we never would have gotten Zoe and her taking up space if she was like, okay, I'm just going to look at like former Miss Universes and see what all they said. That's like, you have to be unique.
The world would not be the same world without the lava walk and without our Miss Universe being the fierce, absolute female empowerment superhero that she is.
Exactly. So just be different, be unique, and sometimes you have to actively remind yourself of that, and that's okay.
And that's okay. Yeah,
for sure. Okay, I'm looking on a few of these questions. Oh, I like this question. Okay, this one is from Miss Oklahoma, USA. She says, "Who is your biggest inspiration?"
Oh my god. Hey girl, hey. Who's your biggest inspiration?
My mom. I was trying to think of like somebody you guys know, but like my mom's really my biggest one. But I feel like, you know, everybody can say that your mom is. But I think besides my mom, God, I don't know. Like I think there were so many people who inspired me at different times, whose stories I would hear about and listen to about them overcoming challenge or working really hard, or whatever it was. And like I think, you know, my sort of inspiration came from a mix of a lot of different people and things. So it's kind of hard
Yeah,
to answer.
that's normal.
Yeah.
Um, my pageant coach would always say that I'm not allowed to say it because everyone says it, but Oprah is my biggest inspiration, and I'm gonna say it because I'm not in pageants anymore. Um, I think like I don't want her career, I don't want her life, but I look at her and I see someone so authentically connected to themselves and to the world and to every human being that they interact with, that it's the most inspiring. She just shows me how limitless you can be and how limitless life can be. Like just there's no limit to what we can do. She is the biggest banner child of that,
Yep.
and has overcome, of course, so much to get there. And yeah, that's goals to me. Like
Yeah.
just being that authentic and real, and just doing you and keep going. Just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And refusing to like allow people outside to sort of limit her because, you know, obviously she was a talk show host, but then like she did acting as well. And she started, you know, on TV, and she's got her own magazine, and she does philanthropy. She has a school in Africa for young girls. And like, it's like Oprah woke up one day and was like, is there anything else that I would like to do that I haven't done yet? Because I guess I'll do that now because
Yeah.
like it's Oprah, she can do whatever. So yeah, it is inspiring sort of seeing everything that she's done, how successful she's been. So
Yeah.
it's really cool. She's an amazing one. Okay, so I think, okay, it looks like we have time for like 2 more questions. Oh, this is an interesting question. Somebody says, do you think that sash power is an actual thing? I guess like sash factor. So if there's like not any, if there are any people on here who aren't like familiar with pageants, like there's this like theory that there are certain states or sashes that are very powerful, and when they get to like national competitions or international competitions, they always do well, and it's because like everybody knows where this person is from. So what do you think?
It's kind of hard to unpack, because the reality is that sometimes the sash factor that you see are people that have had more access to sponsorships, to coaching, to wardrobe. Um, they've been in pageants longer. So they've had more years of experience. So it's hard to put a country that has had all of that against a country that a girl maybe competed against, 20 other women to win that title. And it was her first pageant, and she has no sponsorships, no real coaching, and shows up the same. So it's really hard to say like that sash factor doesn't matter. But I will say, as a judge, I am not looking at like a certain country because they're a certain country. I'm looking at the women in front of me. Now, do some people have leg ups because of the opportunities they had before we got there? Sure, yeah. But for me, it's not like a sash factor like that such and such country is going to be in the top 5 because they're that country.
Yeah, yeah. I
Does that
totally
feel fair?
agree.
Do you have a different perception?
Yeah, no, yeah. Because I was looking at this question, and I was like, huh, do they? But for me, it's like 2 things. Number one, I totally agree in that there's certain, franchises that have a lot of resources and continually pour those resources into their representatives. And so you end up seeing some very successful people because it's like every year they do these 3 things and they have these people that they get to talk to. So it's like, yeah, they end up doing well. But that's not because the judges were like, oh, this person always does well, or this state or this country always does well, and so we need to make sure that they're in the top. It's just like, that's what, like, I remember when I was, for my state, RPM is our the company that owns like North and South Carolina, Louisiana, and Alabama. And every year they would bring all of the state title holders and teen state title holders to this retreat, and they bring in people. We talk to people. There's so much information we get. We get to talk to sponsors, and so every year we see that. And so every year you start to see people who have these resources, and some end up doing really well. But beyond that, I think people forget like who the judges are. Like you were a judge for prelims at Miss Universe this year, but like at Miss USA, we had a couple of Miss Universes, and then most everybody else were like business people. And it would shock me. Like one of our, for example, one of our judges was like the mayor of Reno, I think. It would shock me if the mayor of Reno was like looking at different sashes and was like, okay, this person usually does well year after year. For 10 years, they've done well. I know that they need to be like, they don't know. These are usually like pageant experts. So that,
Yeah.
I think that sort of destroys this idea of like all these states are always going to do well, or all these countries are going to do well, because even the judges don't usually even know about these sort of belief about sash factor.
Yeah, you're spot on with that.
Yeah. Okay, so that was a good question. Let me see if we've got another good one on here. Oh, these are so sweet. So a lot of these questions we've actually already answered. Oh, I love this one. This would be a cool one. Okay, so Kerwin Liberty
says,
my gosh,
I almost just lost you because I have a time limit on my Instagram.
Oh no.
So I don't stay on social media all day, and it just told me that I'm kicked off for the day. Whew, that was touch and go. I said ignore it for today. Sorry.
Oh, that would have been so scary. Oh my God. Well, and we actually do have a limit on our live, because I think they limit them at 60 minutes, so we would get kicked off soon anyways. Yeah. Okay, so let's make this the final question then. So Kerwin Liberty says, Olivia, do you still have your Miss Universe dress?
Oh my gosh, so many people ask me this. I'm a budgeter. I really don't like to spend money. I really, 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 really like to save money. I like to make money. So I don't have any of my dresses. I don't have.
Oh, really?
Anything. Most of them I didn't own to begin with. Like I pretty much everything that during my Miss USA year was borrowed, rented. A stylist put it on me. So I don't own anything. I have no memories. I did, Sherry Hill gifted me the pink ball gown, which I then auctioned to one of those charity things to raise money for Glisten. And as a surprise, my friend that was our wedding officiant, Jim Fielding, ended up buying the gown to support Glisten, but then to store, because he was like, I didn't want it to leave the family. I want you to have it back someday. So that was like a sweet surprise. So one day maybe I'll have my pink ball gown back. But in the meantime, Jim's holding on to it. Praise the Lord, because I don't have that much extra closet space around here.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't imagine trying to like put that in a closet somewhere.
Right?
Maybe like 10 years.
Do you have your dresses? Do you have stuff?
Yeah. So I think in the closet here, actually, I have my prelim and finals gown from Miss Universe, and then my USA gown. I think it's either at my mom's house, or I loaned it to my sponsor, Mackenzie Jades, or the dress sponsor that paid for my dress for Miss USA. And so she's got my teens dress on display in her store. And I remember us talking about like, cool. We'd love to put this on display. And so it's at one of those two places. I remember leaving it at my mom's house to get it to Mackenzie's. So if that happened, it's at Mackenzie's, or it's at my mom's house.
I just saw someone ask, do you still have your Miss USA sash? Yes. I'm not a total, like, I don't like just throw away things, by the way. Like I have the sash. We have like this little tiara that's like a memento. I have my state crown. I don't throw things away. I just, when I don't own things, I don't get to keep them.
Yeah, because you guys, I forgot that you guys got little tiaras after you won. Do you get a crown? So I think we might end up getting something from the new crown sponsor, but since we wore the Mickey Motos, there aren't tiaras for us. So
of course.
We'll get one of those tiaras, which I understand. I mean, I still got to wear the Mickey Moto for a little bit, so I was still happy about that.
The sash is really what it's all about. The sash is the memory. You're like, you became a dear friend of mine. I wore you often.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Olivia, for being on here. Seriously, like the advice that you have for everybody. I know that there are so many people, I've been looking at some of the comments, there's so many people who appreciate it, especially just being so candid and so vulnerable with people. So appreciate you and appreciate your time being on here. So thank you.
I appreciate you, girl. You are such a light. You have been the most unbelievable Miss USA. You have had challenges on top of challenges. I cannot imagine anyone handling this quarantine life like you have been shining and spreading your light and beautiful smile and staying positive. You're allowed to feel all the feels, but I also appreciate you having moments where you're sharing this with us. Thank you.
Oh,
You're a
thank you
light.
so much. See, this is why everybody loves you. The people's queen, y'all. Olivia
Oh,
Jordan.
stop.